Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers released their promotional schedule for 2024. There are a lot of bobbleheads on the list, 18 of them to be exact, including 14 that we know who they're going to be of. We're going to talk about our favorites that are coming up, some interesting ones on that list, and we will talk about who we hope the Dodgers will do a bobblehead of either this year or in the future. And that's what's on tap, so let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. My name is Jeff Snyder. My co-host is Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like most of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers, join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And Vince, it's always an exciting day when the Dodgers release their promotional schedule. Seems like a little bit earlier than usual this year. I know at least sometimes in the past, it doesn't happen until late February, but we got it in late January this time. And most notably, it's always exciting to see the bobbleheads on the list. One other notable thing, there are more drone shows this year, which I think those were a big hit last year. They replaced some of their Friday night fireworks with Friday night drone shows, and they seem to be pretty popular. They're doing more of those this year. But 18 bobbleheads might be a record. I know they've gotten close to that in the past, but a lot of the time they would add them as the season went on. Oh, let's throw in another bobblehead here. I think 18 on the initial calendar might be a record, at least as long as I've been paying attention to it.
Yeah, for a while they were doing 10 every year. The last few years they've gotten that number up a little bit. It's interesting because basically bobbleheads are the promotions, and there's a couple others here and there, and then it's all the special night ticket packs now. It's bobbleheads are still fun and they're still cool. You know, I don't collect every single one now. I kind of pick and choose a little bit more than I did before. But I do miss like blanket nights and some of those other giveaway nights that they don't have anymore. It seems that they've kind of gone all in on the bobblehead craze, which I was interested to know or to see how they were gonna do it this year. Because last year, before, it was like any bobblehead night, boom, you're getting, you know, a packed house before the game even starts. Last year, the some of the demand for some of the bobbleheads wasn't as big as last year, whereas they didn't even, you know, there's still people getting them in the second or third inning if they got there late. So interesting.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting, I think this is the first time the Dodgers have done two bobbleheads of the same person in one season. They have two Shohei Ohtani bobbleheads scheduled. I know last year the Angels, I think, did 4 Shohei Ohtani bobbleheads out of only like 7 total bobbleheads. So percentage-wise, it's still pretty low. And I assume there will be one pitching and one hitting one that the Dodgers are doing. If you're going to do 2 bobbleheads of anybody, Shohei Ohtani makes sense. And obviously the people you would expect, there's Mookie Betts, there's Freddie Freeman, there's Yoshinobu Yamamoto, there's Tyler Glasnow, a lot of those. There's also 4 dates that are still just listed as bobblehead night: July 24th, August 20th, September 11th, and September 25th. Those are scheduled to be bobbleheads, but we don't know who of yet. And we'll talk maybe in the next 2 segments, we'll be talking about people we hope to see in bobbleheads. And so, you know, maybe there's still a chance that some of these people could be this year's bobbleheads. But one of the interesting things was in August, the second weekend in August, the Dodgers host the Pirates for that weekend. And it's a 3-game series, and there are two bobbleheads, and the weekend is Dodgers alumni weekend. And they're doing a Dusty Baker bobblehead on the Friday and then Matt Kemp on the Sunday. Obviously 2 former Dodgers, and you could say Dodger legends, which leads to the question, do we think that Dusty and or Matt Kemp will be inducted into the Legends of Dodger Baseball, and their bobblehead will be a Legends theme.
It seems like Matt Kemp seems. Dusty Baker, I don't know the years where he was with the Dodgers off the top of my head, so I don't know if there's any anniversaries or not. For Matt Kemp, I tried to find a connection to some type of anniversary or anything, but I didn't really find any connection. And from the first time he came up, it's not any like 10 or 15 or 20 years since that almost MVP season. It's not any, notable. It's not any 5-year increment year. So I don't know. It seems like there might be some going on there. My one thing is, unless it's some kind of theme or something of why it would be Kemp, I would have thought, if they were going in some type of order, I would have thought Ethier gets it before Kemp. If that, I don't know what the process is, but Ethier's been around the team a lot more and is still kind of involved, where Matt Kemp is still involved on the outside. He supports the team, on social media and everything else, but he hasn't really been around the stadium and stuff.
Yeah, part of that is because Ethier did play his entire career with the Dodgers, although even some of that was just dumb luck. Ethier was pretty likely to be traded before he fractured his leg in spring training on the foul ball, the injury that ultimately shortened his career. And Kemp obviously left and then came back and then left again. For me, I feel like Kemp hasn't been gone long enough to be a legend. When you look at who the current legends of Dodger baseball are, there's Fernando, Steve Garvey, Don Newcomb, Maury Wills, Kirk Gibson, Oral Hershiser, and Manny Mota. And the one thing all of those guys have in common is they played, no later than the 80s. I guess Hershiser went into the 90s. Gibson went barely into the 90s, I guess, with the Dodgers. But, we're talking early 90s at the latest as far as their Dodger career goes. Kemp, we're 5 years? 6 years removed from, has it really been 6?
Yeah, 2018.
Wow. 2018 is when he came. Wow. Time just flies. Time is crazy.
Since 2020, time hasn't counted for anything.
2020 really messed things up. So it's only been 6 years since Matt Kemp was last a Dodger. It's hard. I feel like that's too soon. And so maybe it is just, hey, alumni weekend. Who's a former Dodger that fans love? Let's do Matt Kemp bobblehead, which is perfectly reasonable logic. Dusty Baker, though, seems like a very logical person to be the next inductee into the Legends of Dodger baseball. He was one of the 30 home run hitters in 1977 or 78, I think. I should know that. It's, and he obviously classic, helped invent the high five in a Dodger uniform, won a World Series with the Dodgers, and is a legend in baseball. And now that he is retired from managing, it makes sense that he would be the next legend of Dodger baseball. It is kind of interesting, though, that they are doing him and Kemp in the same weekend, if one is going to be a legend and the other one isn't. I didn't see anybody else on the calendar who seems likely to be a legend, because the only other retired players were all guys who are already either have their numbers retired or are already in the legends of Dodger baseball. Sandy Koufax. And Koufax is right. Wow, that's a big stretch. 3 bobbleheads in 5 days. Sandy Koufax, Dusty Baker, and Matt Kemp. So if you're thinking about making a trip to California, if you're one of those non-local Dodger fans, that's a good week to go. Phillies and Pirates and 3 bobbleheads.
Yeah, though it's, Dusty Baker again, and if it, it does end up being that it's one of those kind of like not slippery slope, but it's not a fallacy, but it's one of those interesting things where I thought they would have waited a little bit more to remove him kind of from the Astros stench a little bit, but also, Dusty Baker is older. You can't wait too long. So, we'll see what happens. Like I said, that might be tied to something else. It might not be. It might just be maybe this alumni weekend. They used to have the old timers game and stuff like that, and they've had different things, but I don't remember there ever being a specific alumni weekend. So that might be a new thing where they're going to start doing bobbleheads like that every year.
Yeah. And Dusty wasn't with the Astros when they cheated. And he said the things he had to say when he was brought in as manager to, replace the cheaters. So, I don't think Dodger fans will hold it against him now that he's not an Astro anymore. He can go back to just being a Dodger legend. So yeah, that'll be fun. Any other bobbleheads you're specifically looking forward to?
From the poses they've shown so far, a lot of basic poses. The Gratterall one stands out because he is doing the little thing, the little homage to his brother that he does when he comes off the mound. So that one definitely stands out the most. The other ones are like Freddie and Mookie are in generic defensive poses. Yamamoto and Bueller and Otani are in like generic poses. I'm still excited for them, but Gratterall is the only one so far I think that has like a special pose of the ones that have been shown already.
Yeah, Mookie looks like he's in a base running pose, so that one's kind of a little bit different than what
No, he
they've
has
done.
his glove on.
Oh, does he?
It
It's a
looks like he's
second
playing
base. Second base pose. I hadn't zoomed in. It looks like he's just leading off a base. Oh yeah, that makes sense. A second base Mookie. So a little bit different. I think Gratterall probably is the one that's made the most exciting. I also saw they're doing a Joe Kelly jersey night with number 99. Just kind of leaning into Kelly giving up his number for Shohei. So that's a lot of fun. Lot of good stuff coming up this year at Dodger Stadium. We're going to come back in a second. We're going to talk about guys who we hope will eventually get guys or gals who may get a Dodgers bobblehead. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like us, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl 58, wow. They keep on doing one every year, and the numbers keep adding up. FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today, and you get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Hey, we're back. We want to thank our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. If you're not an everydayer, it's really easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. We also want to remind you there are two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. They are Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Locked On Sports Today covers all the sports in the country. Locked On Sports Los Angeles specifically focuses on Los Angeles sports. I guess I shouldn't say just in the country, because Locked On Sports Today also covers, say, the Toronto Blue Jays, who signed former Dodger Justin Turner on Tuesday. So exciting that JT got a job. He will be playing in Canada. You can probably hear about that on Locked On Sports Today right now when you're done with listening to this, or check out Locked On Sports Los Angeles for all your Los Angeles sports needs. And one last thing, become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. It's a texting service. We can text you our thoughts on breaking news. You can text back and forth with us. It's a lot of fun, just a few bucks a month with a free 14-day trial. So check that out at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. And now, Vince, we thought we would talk about people who we hope will eventually get a bobblehead. And we figured we'd do 4 categories each. One current Dodger, one former Dodger, one athlete who's not a Dodger, and one non-athlete bobblehead. And so I figured let's just go with that order. We'll do current Dodger and then former Dodger, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we will do athlete, non-Dodger, and non-athlete. So who is your current Dodger who you would like to see get a bobblehead, Vince?
Yeah, this one was tough because there's not many choices left after all the bobbleheads the Dodgers have in terms of like people that would be either deserving of one or should have one. I probably know who your answer is, so I wasn't going to take that one. So kind of bouncing off that 99 jersey, I mean, Joe Kelly, I don't know if they could go full major league themed and give him, some of the glasses and whatever else and go the Wild Thing route. But I do think basically every year Joe Kelly's here, just give him a bobblehead at this point. He's for, a few reasons, he's become a fan favorite. Some people disagree with that, but regardless of how other people feel, he's a fan favorite. And, he says he wants to keep signing one-year deals until he finishes his career. And if he keeps pitching well, the Dodgers might keep bringing him back every year.
Yeah, I like that idea. Like sleeveless bobblehead,
Yeah.
the dark rim glasses, maybe even the light, like the lightning bolt shaved in the back of his head.
Yeah.
Go full on Wild Thing with Joe Kelly. That would be a fun one. Joe Kelly obviously has had some good Dodger bobbleheads and some generic Dodger bobbleheads. Actually, I think the one I have of him making the pouty face is from Foco, not from the Dodgers. Where
Yeah, the
I can't,
Dodgers didn't do that.
I don't know how to point. There it is, right there behind me, right there. Um, yeah, you probably guessed correctly who my current Dodger would be, because when he was a guest on our show a week or two ago, I specifically asked him, "Are you going to get a bobblehead this year?" And he said, "I hope so," or "I'd like to," or something like that. Evan Phillips. I think Evan Phillips has done more than enough to deserve a bobblehead. He's not on the current list, but he seems like a very good candidate to fill one of those last four spots, especially if he starts off the season really well again, and maybe even makes the All-Star team, which he was probably been deserving a couple times. If he makes the All-Star team, one of those September bobbleheads could definitely be an Evan Phillips bobblehead, and I think that would be more than deserving. The only downside of that is, when we're talking about these generic poses, Evan Phillips, nicest guy in the world, and very interesting to talk to as far as an interview goes. He, we've talked to a lot of players, and he gave maybe the most insightful, thoughtful answers we've had, like really not giving cliches, just really going deep. But there's not a lot about Evan Phillips on the field that really makes for a unique bobblehead. And so, but you know what? I'll take a generic Evan Phillips bobblehead, even if it is, generic. I like that dude, and I want him on my bobblehead wall.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's probably the best player left that doesn't have one so far this year.
All right, who's your former Dodger?
Former Dodger. Now, some of these guys do have bobbleheads from back in the day, but I've always said that I think one of the best times as a Dodger fan was the Gagne game over era. And the Dodgers haven't shied away from, Gagne. They've had him throw out first pitches. They've had him around the team. So I don't, regardless of everything that happened in his career and, whatever, steroids and everything else, they haven't shied away from him. So I do think that an upgraded, some kind of game over, it'd be really cool if you could, have the button and it plays "Welcome to the Jungle," something like that would be really cool. But the Dodgers don't normally do that. I don't know if you have to pay, for that too. So, but I think an updated Gagne pose with like some kind of game over in the background and like the fist pump, the goggles, like everything else, I think that would be the one of a long list of old ones that I want in new form. There's some of those ones I look at, the old ones, and that was good bobbleheads. They just look like kind of like tiki men that have a head that moves. But yeah, I think Gagne would be one of the ones for sure.
So your theme so far today is relief pitchers with unique eyewear.
Yeah, so far.
That'll probably go away with our next two. Although maybe you'll pick James Worthy, my former Dodger would be Mickey Hatcher, and specifically Mickey Hatcher sprinting around the bases after his home run in game one of the 1988 World Series. It is a big home run. It gets overshadowed by Kirk Gibson's home run later in the game, but that home run by Mickey Hatcher was huge. It's the reason that they were only down by one run when Gibson came up to bat. And Hatcher was such an unlikely person to hit that home run. I think he had 2 or 3 home runs in the regular season that year. Speaking of unlikely guys to hit home runs, who hit big home runs in the 88 postseason, I wonder when we're getting Mike Scioscia in the Legends of Dodger Baseball. That's got to be coming soon. Surprised that I would have expected him before Dusty Baker, actually, now that I think about it. But anyway, Scioscia would be a good bobblehead too. But Mickey Hatcher is my choice because I think that would be a fun pose because he was so excited sprinting around the bases. I think you could find some pose that kind of captures that joy and excitement that, you were -3 years old, so you didn't get to fully appreciate that. But that was a fun one.
I've only seen it in the videos, in the archives. I thought you were going to go with your boy, Mike Marshall.
I thought about Mike Marshall. Mike Marshall might be the most boring bobblehead ever. Like, the bobblehead, the head would be full. What's the life size? He was kind of like Alex Bregman, head too big for his body. but he had a huge body too. But yeah, I did consider Mike Marshall for sure. And not the good relief pitcher, the bad Mike Marshall. That's my favorite player growing up. We're going to come back in a minute. We're going to talk about athletes who weren't Dodgers and non-athletes who we want to see as Dodger bobbleheads. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Hey, we're back. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, especially our everydayers. Become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. It's a lot of fun for all of us. And you can check out the 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, both from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I forgot to mention when we were talking about Dusty Baker and Matt Kemp possibly being legends of Dodger baseball, our buddy Pat Dwyer actually sent us a text on the Dodgers Insider group asking that specific question, wondering if those were going to be legends of Dodger baseball bobbleheads. So forgot to give Pat credit for bringing that up. We may have talked about it anyway, but you never go wrong giving Pat Dwyer credit because that guy's awesome and he's an everydayer and he's an insider. So, all right, let's go. Moving on. What non-Dodger athlete, so probably from another sport, I guess it doesn't have to be a separate sport. You could choose Giancarlo Stanton if you can really justify it, but what non-Dodger athlete would you choose for your bobblehead, Vince?
Yeah, this one, we've seen LeBron obviously last year, Magic Johnson in the past. They had the Caleb Williams USC guy. I think the one that's LA, synonymous a little bit with LA, and just again, these are all kind of themed in the way I would like the Dodgers to do bobbleheads. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with like UCLA, Lakers, whether it's UCLA jersey, Lakers shorts, Dodger hat, some kind of combination of that, and like all his accolades. He has, 6-time champion in the NBA. He was MVP 6 times. He won in college 3 times. Like he has so many things that you can kind of stack around him in terms of like little trophies and everything. And he's been around Dodger Stadium before and in the past, and one of those guys where there's a lot of like, you think Lakers, now you can think Rams a little bit. I don't really think Chargers or Clippers or anything else, but I think Kareem is like UCLA, Lakers, stayed in LA, just has all the accolades. It'd be pretty cool to see something like that.
Interesting. I would have put money on you picking Kobe Bryant.
I thought about that, but I guess they're doing a jersey this year. It's one of those where if you do Kobe, what realm are you in of, post when after he's passed? It's one of those where, respect. Yeah. You'd have to ask Vanessa, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was talking with somebody on Twitter about that tonight about, both Kobe and Jackie Robinson. The Dodgers have done Jackie Robinson, like little figurines and stuff, but they've never done a bobblehead, I don't think. And I don't know if it's just because bobbleheads are like inherently silly. And so maybe, don't quite give the seriousness. I do expect to see a Kobe Bryant bobblehead at some point, but yeah, I do think that it probably would have to do with consultation with his family and with the time being right there. And I just think that pose after Puig's home run in the 2018 World Series is just kind of tailor-made for a bobblehead. He's wearing a Dodgers jersey, that Kobe, so I hope we see that bobblehead someday, but obviously when it makes sense for the family. So I didn't go with Kobe either. But mine's a little interesting. I went with Fred Dryer. And do you know who Fred Dryer is? Fred Dryer played for the Rams back in the 70s and probably into the 80s. And then He stayed in Southern California and moved to Hollywood and became an actor, and specifically starred on the TV show Hunter. Did you ever watch Hunter on reruns or anything? He played an LA cop and like a police detective, and great show. Hunter was one of my favorite shows growing up. Fred Dreyer, tall and handsome, athletic. Obviously, he was a football player. He also he was on Cheers. A couple episodes, he played Sam Malone's former Red Sox teammate on Cheers, and just it would have to be some sort of like throwback Rams theme night, but Fred Dreyer, either in his Rams uniform or in his like cheesy sport coat that he wore as a police detective on Hunter. I think Fred Dreyer would be a fun one. I also considered Merlin Olsen, who played for the Rams in the 70s. Specifically, he was another guy who became an actor afterwards. He starred on Little House on the Prairie and other shows like that. And he's a Utah guy. I actually went to college with his nephew at BYU. So I like Merlin Olsen, but I went with Fred Dreyer because he's better looking than Merlin Olsen, and that's important on a bobblehead.
That's a good reason.
Yeah. And now you learned about a new person. So,
yeah,
and now the hardest ones, maybe we're talking non-athletes. Who are you picking for your non-athlete bobblehead?
Yeah, I had a couple that went through my mind, but I'll wait till after you go because you might have one of them as yours. But mine is gonna stay in Dodger Stadium, and I think he has like those custom ones that people make, but the Peanut Man, and I just forgot his name as I blanked out.
I can't
but he's in
remember
the
right now
load.
either.
Yeah, Roger the Peanut Man. If you've ever sat in loads behind home plate in recent years, you can find him there. He became famous for throwing the peanuts behind the back. I think they made him stop throwing behind the back, but I think he still sneaks them in sometimes. Usually when I go to games now, and if I don't want to sit or if I want to stand, I usually go behind loads and kind of behind home plate. So I still see him sometimes. I've bought peanuts from him before in the past. And, he's one of those guys that is a Dodger legend in its own. I think he's kind of been lost in the shuffle the last few years, but definitely a guy that I think should be recognized from Dodger Stadium.
I think that's a great one for sure. I went a little more famous outside of Dodger Stadium, but still staying in Dodger Stadium. I was thinking of some of the celebrities who sit behind home plate. There's Mary Hart, there's Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis. That would be a fun double bobblehead. But I ended up going with one that actually fits with the theme of your first one of this episode, Joe Kelly as Wild Thing. There's a Dodger fan who is at a lot of games. His name is Dennis Haysbert. He played President David Palmer on 24, and he played Pedro Serrano on Major League. And he is one of my favorite actors of all time. Major League's one of my favorite movies. 24 is one of my favorite TV shows. He's also the Allstate, Safe Driver, Save 20%, Allstate commercials. And I high-fived him after Cody Bellinger's walk-off single in the 2018 NLCS. What was that, game 4? I think, yeah. And Dennis Haysbert is just, he's got a great look. And whether you wanted to go with him, you probably wouldn't do his Pedro Serrano uniform because you probably don't want to do an Indians uniform for a Dodger bobblehead. But somehow, as President David Palmer or just his current look in a Dodger hat and a goatee, I think Dennis Haysbert would be you could come up with a good idea and do a cool Dennis Haysbert bobblehead. And if it was the same weekend as Joe Kelly as Wild Thing, it's kind of a Major League theme.
Yeah, there you go. That'll work. The one I had in mind was Bryan Cranston, specifically from when the All-Star game was in LA. He had the wild beard and those, colorful jerseys that they wore for the softball game. And he's always at Dodger Stadium, and he's always at, the special event. He's at Kershaw's ping pong every year. And he's a fun guy I've been able to interview him a couple of times, and he's always a good time. So that was my other one that I had that I thought you might have had him on your radar. Yeah,
no, that's a good one. Another one I consider is Jason Bateman. The only downside of Jason Bateman is he's just kind of generic looking. And so, it's hard to figure out what theme you would do that it would be recognizable as Jason Bateman. And that's the thing when you're doing a non-Dodger, there's not a uniform to put him in. And so I guess you could put him in a Dodger jersey that says Bateman on the back. So if you turn it around, you know who it is. But, Jason Bateman, obviously a huge Dodger fan. He's even been involved in like emceeing different events at times. So I guess Kevin Costner would be another option. His baseball movies, he didn't play for the Dodgers. So again, you couldn't put him in a baseball uniform necessarily, but he's been involved. So yeah, a lot of, when you're a LA team with all of the celebrities in Southern California, that Hollywood lifestyle that Anthony Rendon loves so much, there are a lot of actors and celebrities who love the Dodgers, or at least have become Dodger fans since they are the home team where they live now. So yeah, no shortage of people to choose from, I guess. It's you could just look through behind the home plates. Oh, that would be an interesting bobblehead. Even Haley Joel Osment goes to a lot of Dodger games, and he's got a unique look these days. So, a lot of maybe they could do like they've done, like they did the 430 home run guys from 1978. You could do like sitting in the dugout club with like 4 or 5 different people in one bobblehead. That might be the way to go. So because you can get Ashton and Mila and Mary Hart and Dennis Haysbert and Jason Bateman all kind of in one bobblehead.
Yeah, that works. Rob Lowe would also work there.
So, yeah. All right. Well, yeah, it's going to be a fun year for bobbleheads. I'm still trying to catch up on last year's bobbleheads. I think I have about half of the ones they gave away last year. If you're looking to get rid of any bobbleheads from last year's giveaways, hit me up and see if they're ones I have, and we'll work something out. But and if you're going to any games this year and getting bobbleheads and getting an extra, keep your friend Jeff in mind. I used to have season tickets, and I always got bobbleheads, and you can see on my wall, I love my bobbleheads, and that's been the hardest thing, maybe the only hard thing about not having season tickets anymore, is not having myself guaranteed bobbleheads on these bobblehead nights. And so, it's a bummer, but I'm excited for all the people who are going to get their bobbleheads, and I'm going to try to get down to at least a couple of those games this year. So, anything else, Vince?
No, the Fernando jersey giveaway looks pretty cool. It's from 1981 with the white piping that we talked about the other day. So
nice. Yeah. Should be a lot of fun giveaways. Even the non bobbleheads, like Vince said, there aren't a ton of them, but the ones they're doing do seem pretty cool.
I don't like Star Wars, but the Star Wars night special ticket pack one with, I don't know what it's called, so I'm not going to embarrass myself, but one of the spaceships coming out of Dodger Stadium. I don't know how big it is, but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. I haven't even looked at that one. I've seen each Star Wars movie one time. So, I probably wouldn't do much better than you at identifying what ship it is. So, we'll call it the SS Star Wars. And, that's the Millennium Falcon. That's the one I do know.
I didn't want to say that, and it wasn't that.
Yeah, that's the only thing I know about Star Wars. So, that one does look fun. May 6th. May the 6th be with you. So close, people. So, all right. Well, that'll do it for us for today. Thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, especially thanks to our everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, it's really easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. You can also become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. That's a lot of fun too. You can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Sportscast Network. Those are both over on YouTube, running 24 hours a day. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I am on Twitter at Snydog. Both of our DMs are open there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message at 323-863-LOCK, 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.